Alright guys, Mike here. If you watched my last video, you'd have heard me talking about doing a tile battle suit in the same kind of dark metal thing that I discovered. So here he is. Here's the ready to be grimed up battle suit. All I've done is I've airbrushed him, bulk gunmetal all over, and then I've touched up places and painted other sections in mithril, so it's like knee pads, feet, you know. So yeah, you can see there's a brighter colour. So this is going to be like an interesting experiment. Just want to see what happens when I airbrush on this smoke stuff and then badab black it all up, and well, we'll just see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going to load up my airbrush and have Tamiya acrylic paint X19 smoke. I'm also going to use some thinners just to help it airbrush to get through, else you might not flow properly. So probably something like 30% thinner to 70% paint, we'll see. And yeah, I'm just going to I'll fast forward this section as I just airbrush it on, and we'll see what it looks like at the end. Well, that didn't take long, so that didn't bother fast forwarding it. So you see, he's all well, he's a lot darker now. I hope you can tell. When doing this, by the way, if you have an airbrush, you know, do this in a well ventilated room, or if you've got a spray booth, use it, because that stuff doesn't get all over the place, the vapour off it. Smells nice though. Yeah, like all Tamiya acrylics really, because they're alcohol based, I believe. So there we have it. Now I'm gonna have to leave this to dry for a while. You can see it's quite heavy in places, but you know, it's one of those like the chest, I think I went the heaviest on. You can vary how strong this effect is just by varying how much of the stuff you put on using the airbrush. But yeah, this is going to dry glossy as well, which is, it's actually quite desirable, because it's a gloss coat, when we do the badab black, it'll flow into the recesses more, which is where we'll get that nice still shiny metallic edges, but then have the dull, dark and grimy, you know, recesses. So yeah, so I'll leave this to dry, and I'll come back and we'll do the badab black. Alright guys, I've let him dry for a bit. I've also used the hair dryer on him, just to, you know, make sure it's dry. It's the tricky thing about glossy paints. You never know when the bloody thing's dry or not until you touch it. and then if it's not dry, you'll end up putting your fingerprint in. So that's what we've got so far, and I think it looks pretty cool, just does that. But I've loaded up on badab black, and I've added in a bit of flow improving water, so it'll come out better. But the trick is here, and with when doing the smoke, is to just, you really have to be heavy with it. If you don't airbrush heavily, you'll get what's happened on this sort of arm, where it's not quite as glossy, you know, it's been more like dusted on, where really I wanted to get it glossy all over, but it'll add to the whole variation and randomness of this effect. So I'm just going to start airbrushing this badab black, and we'll see what happens. It's a bit easier to be heavier with this. It flows better than the smoke. The smoke's quite viscous, and this with the flow improver should have is flowing a lot better. There we have it. So, at the moment, probably looks a bit darker, but it's still shiny. If the camera would focus, that would be nice. Let's have a look, see if we can get this in. There we go. So yeah, what will happen is when that badab black dries, it should look, you can start almost to see the effect there. See on the top of the boosters, they're kind of, you know, the edges are just completely left behind, and they're still metally. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll just let this dry on its own, because badab black doesn't take too long to dry. Hopefully, you can use the airbrush, but just be careful not to push pools around. But I'm gonna, you know, there are pools pooling up on it. I'm gonna let that happen, and we'll see what happens. Because I thinned this, whereas last time I didn't. I just sprayed straight badab black, and because it's got the flow improver in, this is probably going to pool quite a bit on the lower surfaces. But we'll just see what happens when it's dry, and if need be, I'll just do it again, really darken it up. So yeah, I'll let it dry, and I'll be back with the results. Alright guys, I've just let it dry for a good while. It's still a bit wet in some of the deeper recesses. I actually did another coat of badab black, but this time I just did it straight. It's come out a little darker than I intended, but it still looked pretty good. It's doing what I wanted it to do. The edges definitely have, you know, the metallic look still, and then next to those edges you've got this kind of brown, almost like the glossiness of the smoke coming through, and then you've got the badab black pretty much toning everything else down. Despite doing a second coat and getting it a bit darker than I'd like, I didn't hit all the areas. Like if you look on the top of that, the multi-tracker, I didn't hit that area. That wasn't unintentional, but it's kind of like you've got a nice sort of gradient, so you know you can be more deliberate with this. If you have an airbrush and you want to, you know, you hit only certain areas, you know, that's entirely possible. This was just an experiment really. I was just blasting it on. I actually think you'll get a lot more control if you do it by hand. You can hand paint the smoke on and hand paint the badab black, and I did that on the smoke stacks on the dreadknight, and they came out probably the best out of all the areas that I did this technique on. But you know, it takes a lot longer to do. So here we have it. Some of the mithril is still shining through. It's get brighter areas. You can see it, I think, on the missile pad, missile launchers. You can still see the bright mithril, slightly lighter. And on the end of the gun, the plasma gun. I think that might be because I didn't really hit that area much. But overall, yeah, on camera it kind of just looks like a black mini. But this effect really, you know, you need to see it in person. You need to see it play with the light and see how all the reflections and, you know, are going on the surface to really see it. But yeah, if anyone is interested in this kind of like effect, I'd recommend having a play yourself, get some spare minis, and just go nuts to it really. I imagine using different washes you get completely different effects. But I guess the whole trick is use Tamiya smoke first, because it gives you that gloss coat for the wash to go on afterwards, and it also tints and shades the metal, and so yeah, I'm alright. I'm pretty happy with this. I think I did it a bit too much with the badab black the second time. I guess I could, and this might be interesting, just sort of lightly scratch the edges of the battlesuit. The problem with this battlesuit is, and I think with the Tau battlesuit, is the fact there's no real hard edges. All the edges are they've got that kind of rounded bevel to them. So there's only a few examples of where I can really see it's working, like on the missile pad and stuff. So we'll see. But anyway, I've got some other ideas on what to do with this guy here as well. So I'll do another video if that technique works out and it's worth showing. So yeah, cheers, thanks for watching guys. Any comments or questions, in the comment, just put them down below. I always appreciate them, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy guys, bye bye.